Alright guys, so we're at a pretty cool stage now. We've got all 4 pieces, we've got a good coat of finish on them. The tall dresser still needs its second coat of finish on it, so I'm going to do that tonight once this first coat has a little bit of time to cure up. But we can start working on the drawers now. And so for this, we're just going to be using some normal soft close ball bearing drawer slides from Lee Valley. Now these are a fairly inexpensive set. They're a little bit of them on the nicer side compared to other ones I've seen on like Amazon and at Home Depot and that. But basically all they are is they're a soft closing. So when you pull it open, you can open it all the way, it's full extension, and then you push it back in, and it's soft close about the last 2 inches. Now, there's a few different terms out there. There's just normal slides where they just open and close like normal. There's nothing holding them in. There's soft closing, which is what we have here, where this little spring action catches it the last few inches and just pulls it in slowly. There's self-closing, which will grab the drawer from about halfway in and then pull it in the rest of the way. So self-closing and soft closing, very similar, but also quite different. Soft closing is much less expensive, whereas self-closing gets very expensive. Now, because I'm putting this out on YouTube, and I know I'm going to get the question, why don't you use Bloom undermount drawer slides? There's a good reason for it. So this is a Bloom undermount drawer slide. I bought these for a different project I was working on, and I just never got around to finishing that project, so they're just kind of sitting in my shop here. And so these are also a soft closing drawer slide, as you can see at the very end there, and they're a much nicer soft closing. There's not as much resistance to open it as compared to the ones I'm going to be using. And so the big difference between the Bloom undermount drawer slides and these more generic ball bearing drawer slides is mainly the price. So the Bloom ones are about $70 for the 18-inch length, and then these generic ones are about $30. Now the nice thing is for this project, because I'm dealing with so many slides, I was able to get a little bit of a bulk discount from Lee Valley, so everything was a little bit cheaper, but that's still a pretty significant price difference between them. And so initially I did plan this whole furniture set around these Bloom undermount drawer slides because I wanted this set of furniture to be just about as nice as it possibly could be, and these are really nice drawer slides. But there's one key downside to these, especially in a bedroom set like this, that is very apparent, and that is just the overall size that you lose from using these drawer slides. And so these things on this bottom area here are about 1 inch thick. So if you're taking into consideration that we have 7 drawers on like the tall dresser, if we have 7 inches of just dead space vertically, we're basically giving up a full large drawer on the bottom of that dresser. You're just throwing it away for the sake of having some nice drawer slides. And so far on none of my projects I've been able to justify the cost or the nicety of these Bloom undermount drawer slides. Now I do agree with most of the woodworking community here on YouTube that these are really nice drawer slides. But the fact that you're giving up 1 inch at the bottom of your drawer, that's a ton of space. The actual volumetric measurement of your drawer that you're giving up is massive. Giving up that inch of space, that's, you could probably stack at least 2 t-shirts in there. And if you take that 2 t-shirts along the whole length of one of our large drawers on any one of these pieces of furniture, that is a massive amount of space you're throwing away or you're just wasting. If you have a 30-inch long drawer like we have on the wide dresser, that whole space between your drawer slides is just thrown away. So in something like a very showy piece like a credenza or that, where you really want your joinery to show off, when you open your drawer, you want to see your dovetails and that, I guess I could see some reason for them. But in the case of a bedroom set like this, giving up that much usable space just doesn't make sense. So that's where just using our normal ball bearing drawer slides that are about 1/2 inch thick, so we're losing about 1 inch of width on the drawer overall, which again, not a big deal, not as big of a deal as losing that same inch over the whole bottom width of the drawer slide here. And so the other thing that I'm going to be doing different with these drawers compared to other drawers that I've done in the past is that these are all going to use drawer box construction. So we're going to start by taking 4 pieces of wood, cutting through dovetails into them and making a drawer box and mounting that to our drawer slides. Then once we have all those in place, then we're going to go through and make drawer fronts. And so all the drawers I've made in the past have all been, just drawer box construction. They've all had a front with half-blind dovetails and then connected to the main sides of the box, and then you just fit that into the opening space. Now the reason I can't do that here is because I'm using drawer slides. Theoretically, I could do it with some more technical knowledge, but I don't want to go that complex. So just using a separate drawer box and drawer front makes it a little bit easier. Alright, so we've got all the drawer slides installed into all of our pieces, and there is a lot of drawer slides here. I think that there is 12 sets in this one, because it's for all 12 drawers, and then there's another 7 in the tall dresser there, and then 2 more sets in each of the nightstands. So what I find really interesting about this is the amount of weight that these, just the drawer slides alone add. So before I installed the drawer slides on the wide dresser here, I could still pick it up and kind of shimmy it around the shop. You know, I was able to pick it up enough to get it off the ground and, you know, kind of move it around freely. Whereas now I can't move this thing. It's very, well, I can kind of shove it and drag it, but you don't really want to do that. But I have to put it up on the wheel basis so that I can actually get it around my shop now, whereas before it was fairly easy to move around. So there is a lot of weight that goes into these just with these metal drawer slides. Now, like I mentioned before, these are just kind of your generic ball bearing drawer slides they're full extension and they have soft close to them. Now, what I will say about these ones specific, these are the Lee Valley's soft close drawer slides. I think they actually are a brand name. So the brand for these is Repon, R-E-P-O-N. They're pretty nice drawer slides. So the initial force that it takes to actually break that seal, that soft closing seal, is a little bit heavier than I would expect on most soft close drawers. Now, and for me personally, I kind of like this because it very much so feels like a wooden drawer. I'll show you guys in a minute here the ones that I've already done, and they're really nice because it does take a little bit of physical effort to actually pull that drawer open. So it's nice that drawer just can't kind of easily come open. You know, when you slam another drawer shut, which you can't do anyway with them, or if you bump the dresser or something, you don't have drawers coming open. So they are very nice, and they do work really well. They're very clean. They're fairly easy to install. I didn't show a lot of footage of it because installing them was a very painful thing to do. I was out in the shop till about 10 o'clock last night trying to install these things with them on their side, and my back was absolutely killing me afterwards. And so I've got both of the nightstands here, and the top drawers on both of them are completely finished. Obviously, we're not doing the drawer fronts just yet because we're going to do those all at once because to make things a little bit easier. But I've got the actual drawer box mounted, and the base is not in there yet. I still have to cut the plywood for that. But anyway, this is the drawer box, and you can see that it actually works really nicely. So we can push it back in. If you give it a little bit of a good push on the way back, it can pretty much close itself. Then you have that little bit of pressure to actually open the drawer. Again, it's not that much. As a grown adult, I don't think it'd be too much. As maybe as a little kid, you know, you probably wouldn't be able to open it, but also that could be a benefit. If you don't want kids going through your dresser, this does have that little bit of extra pressure that it requires to open it, so you might be, I don't know. And so now the next part of this is going to be making the rest of our drawer boxes. And so on these smaller ones, I use 9/16 stock. And then for the larger drawers on the dressers, I'm going to go up to 5/8. That way there's a little bit more material for what's going to be a little bit of a heavier drawer. And so the main consideration here when I'm planning out how to do my actual drawer boxes is because I'm using a dovetail jig, which everything is set up based on a specific width, what I want to try and figure out is what drawer boxes I can make the same width. And so I've already realized that the bottom drawers on the nightstands here are going to be the exact same drawer box as going to be in the wide dresser for all of its bottom drawers. So I'm going to save those parts, even though they're going to be different thicknesses, because they're the same width, they'll work in the same setup of the jig. So that's going to make my life just a little bit easier later down the road because it means I don't have to set up the jig once for doing all those drawers. Okay, so before we actually start cutting down any lumber, the first thing we have to do is get our actual measurements. We need to figure out what size pieces we need to go into each of these areas here. And so this is where it actually gets really confusing and one of the things that I was most worried about. Now, I can very honestly say that I have not made nearly enough drawer boxes mounted on drawer slides in my lifetime to be a good instructor on that. Those 2 that I did on the nightstand, those are the only 2 that I've ever done. So rather than taking this as someone who has a lot of experience in this topic, I'm going to walk you guys through the process that I use to fit up those 2, and then I'm going to use to fit up the rest of these. So first off, the important part of using a drawer box is that it's a fairly imprecise and kind of generalized form of construction. So if we're trying to put a fitted drawer in this bottom area here with a traditional drawer, one that's, hand planed with a, kind of a piston fit, what we need to do is take precise measurements of both our height, our depth, our width, all of that stuff for each of these openings here. Same thing on the top when we would have it divided up, and we need to take those same specific measurements to each area. Now, most likely there'd be some similarities, like this drawer here and this drawer here would be basically the same. But it would still be important to keep them separate so that you know what's going where. Whereas with drawer box construction, what we want to try and do is find areas that are the same or close enough that we can make things kind of batched out. So I know that my top 2 drawers on this side and my top 2 drawers on this side are the exact same width already, and I'll show you guys how I get that in a minute here. I know this middle one is just about a 16th oversized of these outer ones, so on my part, that was pretty lucky. A lot of this stuff has come down to really dumb luck that a lot of it lines up. You don't always guarantee that, but there are certain areas that you always know are going to be the same. Same thing on the bottom of this dresser, the wide ones on the bottom on this side are all going to be the exact same width because they're set to the exact same width. We made the exact same measurement from the post on this side to those sliding dovetail dividers that we have in the middle here. So we know that the distance between all those is going to be close enough to the same. And so what I'm going to start by doing is figuring out what widths I need in my different areas here. So I'm going to figure out this area, I'm going to figure out this area, I'm going to figure out this area. Then if they're within a 32nd of an inch, I would say, then I can easily make all the drawer boxes the same. If there's a 1/16 of an inch difference, like I already know there is here, then I'm going to make sure that I designate as these two and the far right two are the exact same, but these middle two are going to need to be a little bit longer on the front here. So the nice thing is that, again, because we're dealing with all the same widths here, I know that all of my drawer sides are the exact same on all of these pieces. That's all the exact same measurement, so those will be really easy to batch out. But the drawer fronts and the drawer backs are where we're going to have some changes there. Okay, so on to the drawer boxes now. There's a very specific way we're going to go about doing this. So because I'm going to be using a jig for this, we want to make sure that we have stuff as accurate as possible. And so the biggest thing here is that I want to make sure that I'm breaking things down into groups. So I already mentioned this before, but I want to make sure that any drawers that have the same width, I'm doing them all at the same time. And so the other thing I want to mention is the actual stock that I'm using. So hindsight being 2020, I didn't realize that the place that I buy lumber from sells 6/4 maple. Now, I found this out when I went to pick up a little bit more lumber today, because initially when I went to pick up lumber, I didn't pick up enough maple to finish all my drawers, which has actually turned out to be a really good thing. Because you can see the stack behind me there, that's for the 4 of the bottom drawers on the wide dresser, and that's all cut from 4/4 stock. Now, I broke that stuff down last night in order to just kind of get stuff prepared for today, so I can hopefully get most of the joinery cut today. And so when I went to pick up more lumber, what I realized is, but if I use 6/4 stock, because I'm aiming for 1/2 inch on our smaller drawers and 5/8 on the rest of the drawers, if I buy 6/4 stock, what I can do is I can just split it in half once, and that'll give me my 2 pieces that I need for all of this.